Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another edition of Budget Magic. So next week, we will start delving into Rivals of Ixalan. Super excited to get back to Standard. It looks like a super cool set. But for this week, we're playing a deck that is kind of an old Standard deck, with some updates of course. In Modern, this is Abzan Rites, basically a reanimation heavy Siege Rhino Abzan midrange deck. It is really cool, really sweet, and surprisingly competitive in a lot of matchups. So as you can see, $94 in the paper world, 48 ticks on Magic Online. So pretty reasonable price for a surprisingly good Modern deck. A quick reminder before we break down Abzan Rites for Modern. If you enjoy this deck, and you enjoy Budget Magic in general, it would be so cool of you if you could take a second, click that subscribe button. It's a great way to support the channel and the site for free. So let's talk Abzan Rites for Modern. And kind of the foundation of this deck is our 2-drops. Getting cards in the graveyard is what we really want to be doing, because we're not just an Abzan midrange deck, we're an Abzan reanimator deck. So we have Satyr Wayfinder, one of my all-time favorite cards, and Grizzly Salvage. Satyr Wayfinder obviously dumps 3 cards into our graveyard, hopefully grabs us a land, which fixes our mana. Really key, because building 3 color decks on a budget is a challenge, but Satyr Wayfinder helps make up for that because it finds us the lands that we need to actually cast our stuff. Grizzly Salvage dumps 4 cards, grabs a creature or a land, so again fixing our mana, or we can just grab some of our big threats. So why are we putting so much work into dumping cards into our graveyard? And that is because we are built around Unburial Rites. So Unburial Rites is just a great reanimation spell. If it's in our hand, we can cast it for 5 mana, but the real power here is we can just mill it over with our Grizzly Salvages, mill it over with our Satyr Wayfinders, and then we get to flash it back for just 4 mana. So hopefully, we're not just milling over on Burial Rites, but we're milling over some powerful creatures to reanimate as well. So that's kind of step 1. Get cards in our graveyard, hopefully mill over on Burial Rites. We're also hoping to get some creatures in our graveyard to reanimate. And one of the unique things about this deck is we're not trying to reanimate super huge creatures for the most part. We want our deck to be able to play like a real normal Magic deck, like a Abzan midrange deck, where we can cast all of our stuff too. We hit our land reps with Satyr Wayfinders, Grizzly Salvages, just hardcast our threats, but also have Unburial Rites to be able to get them back from the graveyard, or just keep getting them back repeatedly after they die, so again and again and again. So our main reanimation targets are Siege Rhino and Restoration Angel, both of which are fine on their own but work really well together. So ideally, on turn 4, either with Unburial Rites reanimating it or just hard casting it from our hand, we're going to get down to Siege Rhino, drain our opponent, gain some life, get the huge body. Then for the rest of the game, we're just milling over cards, hopefully drawing or reanimating Restoration Angels to blink our Siege Rhino, get in some more damage, drain our opponent for some more life, start beating down in the air, blink another Siege Rhino, and just grind our opponent out of the game by using Siege Rhino's Enter the Battlefield trigger, plus its big attacking body, over and over and over again. So that's kind of the main synergy of the deck. Mill over cards, hopefully mill our Unburial Rites, and just reanimate and flicker and blink as many Siege Rhinos and Restoration Angels as possible, until our opponent finally just scumbles to the value of the Siege Rhinos. Our other 2 creatures are a little bit bigger, but they do work really well with our plan. So Thragtusk gains us even more life against aggro. Great when we are flickering it with our Restoration Angel, because we're getting the Beast token going wide. Our other one is Ashen Rider, which is kind of out of character for this deck. So Siege Rhino, Restoration Angel, Thragtusk are all threats we can just cast normally. Ashen Rider, really hard to cast, but it's a fine one of. We hopefully are going to mill it over and not draw it, and then we reanimate it, exile a land, exile our opponent's best threat, exile whatever. We can exile a Lantern of Insight or some other non-creature permanent, a Ensnaring Bridge, something that could be keeping us from winning the game. And then, once it's on the battlefield, our opponent doesn't really want to kill it, because then we are able to exile something else, and Ashen Rider's back in our graveyard so we can reanimate it again with another Unburial Rites. But if they don't kill it, then we can start flickering it with our Restoration Angel, exiling, just tearing our opponent apart. So it's a really sweet one of in the deck. The rest of the deck, we have Lingering Souls, which just works really well with our plan. We can cast it to gum up the board, can win the game by attacking, but it keeps us alive while we're setting up our Siege Rhinos, gives us some blockers. Also fine when we just mill it over off of our Satyr Wayfinders, our Grizzly Salvages, gives us some more value from our graveyard. And then one of the best parts of this deck is our creatures and reanimation package is really, really cheap, which means we get to play some really good utility cards. We have Inquisition of Kozilek, gives us something to do on turn 1, picking apart our opponent's hand, getting rid of Rest in Peace, or whatever can mess up our plans. Then we have Path to Exile and Abrupt Decay as our removal spells, which are two of the better removal spells in Modern. So it's really sweet that we can play this really powerful removal in our budget deck, because the rest of the deck is super cheap. Plus, if you're looking to build a Modern collection, Path to Exile, Inquisition, Abrupt Decay, the most expensive cards in this deck are cards that you're going to want in your collection anyway. So even if you don't directly upgrade this deck into like Abzan midrange or something, you are getting a lot of cards that you're going to use, and your money is going towards stuff that you want in your Modern collection because they're Modern staples. The other part of this deck that's a little tricky is the mana base. So normally we shy away from doing 3-color decks on a budget because the mana's really rough, but with Satyr Wayfinder, and specifically being in wedge colors, we can make it work. The trick of this is to make 3-color mana work in Modern. The best way to do it is to have 2 different pain lands that were reprinted in the core set. So that's what makes this mana work. Caves of Koilos, Land and War Waste. It gives us a really painful mana base. We're spending a lot of life on our mana production, but with Siege Rhino gaining us that life back, we can kind of get away with it more so than some other decks would be able to. Sunpetal Grove, a good additional duo. We also have a couple of creature lands, Hissing Quagmire, Stirring Wildwood, and then some basic lands, a couple of Ghost Quarters just as a hedge against Tron. As far as the sideboard, we get some removal, mostly in the form of creatures. So Acidic Slime can attack Tron lands, can attack non-creature permanents, can attack artifacts against Affinity. Rex Age, mostly just for artifacts and enchantments, but again, we can mill these cards over, reanimate them on turn 4 with our Unburial Rites. Drown in Sorrow for go-wide creature decks like Affinity if we run into goblins, things with Lingering Souls that are going wide. Getting to Scry is also a nice benefit. Duress to attack combo decks, control decks. Memoricide is a way to answer combo, things like Scapeshift, answering the Scapeshifts in specific. Then we have Tormod Script as our graveyard hate spell, and that is Abzan Rites for Modern, and that's our budget magic deck for this week. So I don't want to say much more about this deck because it's super sweet. And you just gotta see the videos. It is awesome. If you like mid-rangey style creature decks, if you played Siege Rhino decks in Standard, or maybe even Unburial Rites decks in Standard, you probably already have a lot of the cards for this deck. And while it can struggle with combo if we don't get our right draw, it actually can compete with a lot of decks in the format. Great against control, great against other mid-range decks. And, like I mentioned a minute ago, you're getting Pass, you're getting Inquisitions, you're getting a lot of cards that you want for your Modern collection, plus you can always upgrade this to Abzan proper if you want to, and you're still going to use Inquisitions, you can still use Path to Exile, still use Siege Rhino, Abrupt Decay, add in Tarmogoyfs and Lilianas, so there's a good upgrade path. You're buying Modern staples with most of the cards that are the most expensive in the deck, are things you're going to use again and again, plus the deck is pretty competitive as it is now, and super, super sweet. So anyway, I'm excited for this one. Let's get to the gameplay video so you can see how it works. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the gameplay videos, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, take a second and click that like button down below. It's a great way to help support the channel for free. And you can find the next video in the playlist right here.